Three simple words have reshaped the global manufacturing industry. Made in China. It's not just your clothes or toys, but also humanoid robots, EV cars, and drones.
China by then was stuck in a big but not strong manufacturing mode.
But references to the plan were later dropped from official documents.
3 words used to make people put things back on the shelf. Made in China. Now those same 3 words are showing up in your Tesla competitor, your delivery drone, and apparently your robot butler. But it doesn't stop at hardware. Pop Mart figurines are selling out in seconds. Labubu dolls are flipping for double, sometimes triple, retail price. People aren't standing in line for a toy. They're standing in line for a cultural moment. One that, somehow, started in a factory in China. Somewhere along the way, the label everyone avoided became the label everyone else is desperately trying to own. If you want to see how Made in China stopped being a warning label and became a winning strategy, hit like and subscribe, and let's decode it together here on Money Decoded. Look around you. The shoes you wear, the phone in your hand, the apps you scroll through. For years, they all carried the same quiet label. Made in China. But something has changed. These products are no longer just being manufactured there. They're being designed there, branded there, and more importantly, desired there. From Pop Mart's Labubu craze to TikTok shaping how a generation consumes content, and a growing wave of Chinese brands entering global markets, what we're seeing isn't just trade, it's influence. So what happens when a country stops exporting products and starts exporting culture? For decades, China built everything and owned nothing. That's changing, and that shift matters. As Chinese companies move up the value chain, they're not just exporting higher value products, they're exporting taste, habit, and culture. That's soft power, and it's spreading through every scroll, purchase, and trend. Soft power doesn't feel like influence, it feels like preference. And right now, millions of people prefer Chinese products, platforms, and culture. They just haven't noticed yet. That's exactly what we're getting into. For a long time, China's role in the global economy was straightforward. It was the world's manufacturing hub, producing goods at scale, at low cost, often designed and branded by companies somewhere else. The value was in efficiency, not identity. Factories mattered more than brands. But that model has changed. Today, a growing number of Chinese companies aren't just manufacturing products. They're creating them from the ground up. They're building original brands, developing higher value products, and competing directly in global markets. The shift isn't just industrial, it's strategic. You can see it in companies like Pop Mart, which went from a single store in Beijing to a global retail presence. But it's not alone. Brands like Shein and Temu have reshaped online shopping habits worldwide. TikTok, owned by ByteDance, has become one of the most influential social platforms globally. Even in tech and gaming, titles like Black Myth, Wukong show how China is exporting culture, not just products. But why couldn't China build soft power before? Because low-value products don't create emotional attachment. No one builds a connection to a supply chain or a factory. People connect to brands, to stories, to experiences. That's where the shift up the value chain matters. As companies move from pure manufacturing into design, branding, and innovation, they capture higher margins and reinvest that into building identity, into marketing, into culture. When products become stories, influence follows. That's the turning point. Soft power doesn't need to be forced. It grows naturally when what you create carries meaning, because at this stage, China isn't just producing goods anymore. It's producing experiences. Now, Chinese companies didn't just grow differently, they were trained in a completely different environment. Over the past decade, China became one of the most advanced mobile-first economies in the world. Shopping, payments, delivery, entertainment, everything converged into a single digital ecosystem. Consumers didn't slowly transition online. They skipped steps entirely. Cash to mobile, desktop to app, offline to fully integrated platforms. The result is a market where digital adoption is not just high, it's expected. Compare that to the US, where consumer behavior is still split between online and offline. In China, a much larger share of transactions happens through apps, and adoption cycles move significantly faster. New features, new platforms, new habits. They scale quickly because consumers are already conditioned for it, and this environment produces a different kind of company. Take TikTok, for example. Before it became a global phenomenon, its parent company, ByteDance, had already mastered algorithm-driven content inside China. When TikTok expanded globally, it didn't need to figure things out. It simply deployed a system that had already been tested at massive scale. So what happens when companies trained in this kind of environment go global? They move faster, they operate leaner, and they compete more aggressively on price and iteration. Products improve quickly, features evolve faster, and costs are optimized from day one. It's like training on hard mode, then competing on easy mode. The thing is, Chinese companies aren't expanding randomly. They're moving with a clear strategy, targeting markets where their strengths actually give them an advantage. In the United States, expansion tends to be more careful and selective. Brands don't just copy-paste what worked in China, they adjust. You see this with companies like Shein and Temu, which built massive followings through ultra-fast, low-cost online shopping, and with Luckin Coffee, which is entering the US while tweaking its menu to match familiar tastes. It's less about disruption overnight and more about blending in just enough to win attention. But the bigger opportunities often sit outside the US. In places like Brazil and other emerging markets, the environment feels more familiar. Growing cities, a rising middle class, and people who are already comfortable living through their phones. If you've ever relied on apps for shopping, food, or payments, you already understand the kind of behavior these companies are built around. That's why platforms like Temu and Shein scale so quickly there, and why companies like Meituan are planning billion-dollar expansions into these regions. So why now? Because back home competition is intense. Prices are pushed down, margins get thinner, and growth becomes harder to sustain. When growth slows at home, expansion stops being optional. It becomes survival. On top of that, there's increasing government support encouraging companies to go global, making the move outward even more compelling. And the way they do it is almost formulaic. Start digital, grow fast, then adjust locally. It's a model that's been tested over and over again. But expansion doesn't happen in a vacuum. The moment Chinese companies step onto the global stage, they also run into resistance. And sometimes, it's not subtle. Some of it is political. Companies like Huawei have faced outright bans in markets like the US over national security concerns. TikTok, despite being one of the most downloaded and used apps globally, continues to face scrutiny around data privacy and potential regulation. Governments aren't just looking at what these companies offer, they're questioning what comes with them. And that creates an interesting disconnect, because on the consumer side, the story feels completely different. TikTok is everywhere. It's where trends start, where people spend hours without noticing, where shopping, entertainment, and culture blend into one feed. Most users aren't thinking, this is a Chinese app. They're thinking, this is just the app everyone uses. And yet, at the same time, it remains one of the most debated platforms politically. So if the products are clearly popular, why the pushback? It comes down to a simple gap: adoption versus trust. People can love using something and still feel uncertain about it, or not think about it deeply at all, while governments take a much stricter view. Then there's the business side. Growing fast is one thing, but staying relevant is another. Platforms like Temu can explode in popularity, but compared to something like Amazon, user loyalty is still catching up. It's easy to try something new. It's harder to stick with it. It's a bit like downloading an app because everyone's talking about it, and then forgetting about it a few weeks later. And that's the reality. Going viral is exciting, but it's not the finish line. Popularity doesn't automatically turn into long-term dominance. Adoption can happen almost overnight. Chinese brands aren't asking for your attention anymore. They already have it. Not through campaigns or messaging, but through the app you open without thinking, the product you reorder without comparing, the trend you followed because everyone else already did. That's the shift. It's not influence you notice, it's influence you've already adopted. Shein didn't beat fast fashion by being louder. It beat it by being faster. TikTok didn't replace TV by being more cinematic. It replaced it by being more addictive. And BYD isn't winning on patriotism, it's winning on price, range, and product. Soft power used to mean culture and messaging. Now it looks like your screen time, your shopping cart, and your morning routine. So the real question isn't whether Chinese brands are growing, it's whether you'd even notice if they already won. What brand do you think is about to get quietly replaced? Drop it in the comments. And if this made you question what's actually in your cart, hit subscribe.